Well, I'm here with my longtime friend, Robin Graham, who is an advisor of Peace Stars. He's the founder and the CEO of peaceclub.org, and I'm going to let him tell you all about that. But he's doing amazing, amazing work in overcoming conflicts and building a culture of peace. So I'm so happy and so honored, and I want to introduce you to our audience. Robin, tell them about what you're doing.
Thank you. So it's yeah, it's my pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about Peace Club, which started, I keep on reflecting. It must just be one's getting older, but I've been in this business for a long time of sport and peace.
Hmm.
And Peace Club is maybe, as you can imagine, maybe you got a taste of it, is actually about working through sport to bring peace.
Uh-huh.
Again, very high ideals, very uh, visionary. We work with football, i.e., in the States we'd say soccer, but actually most countries around the world they say football.
We're catching up.
And yes, so yeah. And not that you can't work through other sports, but as you may know, soccer or football is probably the world's most popular sport.
Hmm.
Everybody wants to play it. Every country, every David is looking for a Goliath, or every Goliath is looking for a David. The small countries, they just want a shot. Let me play against, maybe an example of that would be the Solomon Islands. Several years ago, they played against Australia. Actually, I think they drew. It was a draw.
Wow.
But this is the equivalent of a win. Do you
Yeah.
understand? The Solomon Islands is very, very small. Australia has a history of great sportsmanship, of great athleticism in many sports. So that's the background in the world. There's just such a flavor of competition. But even the word competition, actually, when we're talking about conflict, sometimes we kind of forget, where does competition come from? It actually comes from the Latin com and patera. You see, it helps to have a bit of Latin education in your schooling. Patera is the Latin for to struggle together. And it's emphasized with com, which is, with. So the word means to struggle together with.
Wow.
Oh, you see, somehow today, in our today's world of sport, sometimes it means to go out and thrash people, and drive them into the ground. No, the reality is in a competition, you need the other person, you need the other team. If you don't have a team to play against, well, you don't have a game, you don't have a sport. Actually, the reality is also maybe in what we call a tournament, you might have a team's got, let's say they're in the quarterfinals, and the other team scratches for some reason. They say, sorry, we couldn't get up in the morning. So that team goes through to the semifinals. Wow, they're in the semifinals. And in the semifinals, the other team scratches. They get into the final. And guess what? The other team in the final doesn't show up. They won. Actually, it's a hollow victory because you need the other person, the other team to play against. Otherwise, it's not fun. So part of actually sport sometimes can have the appearance of being kind of a lot of conflict, you might say. It's me versus the other. It's our team versus you. Sometimes one gets the sense that national pride and certain qualities come into the game, which maybe are not, yeah, they're not, they're not so, yeah, they're not so good. The reality is that sport can be, maybe we should say, can be an opportunity to show the best side of human character, of what a human being can be, and how teams can play together. And this is where Peace Club has decided to enter into this game. We're not there to change the game of, the rules or how many players on each side. We figure that actually there are coaches and organizations doing this throughout the world. There are many, many leagues. You know how many people play soccer in the world? I'll use the word soccer. It is about 320 million people. players and coaches involved in the game of soccer. Not, I don't mean the kids outside on the street kicking the ball around. I'm talking about leagues,
Uh-huh.
amateur leagues and professional leagues. Amateur leagues are huge in some countries, huge. So this is what's going on. 300 million, let's say 300 million. And FIFA, they said, well, each one of those players is carries with them at least five other supporters. You can think mom, dad, cousin Joey, grandparents, the kind of supporters who come along and say, well, how was the game on Saturday? Charlie, Susan, Mohammed, whoever is playing. And they're showing an interest. So you multiply that out and you go, wait a minute, that's 300 times five, that's 1 point. Wait a minute, we're already up to a total of 1.8 billion people in the world are already, one could say, influenced by Charlie's game on Saturday. Well, I'm multiplying it out to make you see how important it can be. What's the effect? 1.8. So what are we saying? The world's population is about 8 billion at the moment. So almost 25% of the world's population on a weekly level are influenced by the game of football, whether we like it or not. If even if we do nothing, they're influenced by it because they're showing interest in their family or their friend's game.
That's
So
way
here's where,
low. You have to add in all the people who watch it on TV and all the fans.
well, when it comes to something like a World Cup, which is going to take place this year in the United States, well, not just the US, it's going to be in Mexico and Canada as well. So you have three tournaments taking place in Mexico and two in Canada. But the reality is then it explodes. But I'm talking, we're not just looking for simple, quick solutions. We're talking about a change of character.
Yes.
That's where we come in as Peace Club. Otherwise, it's like abracadabra, something's going to happen. Well, sometimes there are remarkable things in the world where, you wonder, well, that was magic. And you kind of, but are they sustainable? That's the next question. What sustains behavior, so-called good behavior?
Hmm.
And that's what we're talking about within Peace Club. We're saying, all right, recognizing the opportunity of the power of football, of soccer, where do we put ours or 10 cents? Where can we have an investment of time and heart and a thought, which may have an impact? And what we've come up with is to talk about virtues,
Uh-huh.
virtues within the sport. Not just, well, we use football, but actually these virtues might be common, recognizable throughout every aspect of society, and beyond that, through every culture.
Hmm.
So we have 11 virtues.
Hmm.
I just by coincidence, there happen to be 11 players on the team. Well, there you go. Isn't that a coincidence? So we start off with hope, because without hope, there's no fuel to move, to believe, to go forward, even to get out of bed, we might say. And now there are examples, which we've got hundreds of examples of people who are challenged even to have hope. But nevertheless, we use hope as a kind of like the fuel for all the other 10 virtues. But then we move into individual development, relationship development, and mastery development about the person. It begins with the person. We're talking about, let me just give you the example of individual development, which we are passing on. Who do we talk to? We're talking to the coaches primarily, not directly to the players. Coaches, they may have 20 kids, 20 youth, maybe I should say. They're not all 5-year-olds. No, some of them are kind of working with 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds. Now, what we're doing is giving them, if you like, a virtues map, a kind of a schedule, a curriculum, if you like, as well. But it's a map of where and purpose behind the sport. Throughout football, although you may think, or even sport, sometimes it occurs, but many times it's really just about the techniques, the way of playing the game, passing the ball, heading the ball, tactics, strategy. And it's not always about the character of people. Having said that, actually, we all know that somewhere in there's a possibility within sport to actually grow yourself to be a better person. So that's what we're really looking for. Why is this important? I'll come to it because
Some coaches teach their folks how to cheat without getting caught. You know, it's exactly the opposite, right? You know, so
sadly, and those things taint the game, but we're talking about. So let me just jump across to the 11th virtue, if you
okay.
like. So we've got the kind of in the nine virtues which I call the engine of our work. The
Uh-huh.
nine are the engine. The the 11th virtue is sportsmanship. What is sportsmanship? Well, it is the character of the person. It's easier sometimes to talk about maybe a single star. Sometimes it's hard to see a team like soccer, but sometimes in a sport we may see a star, and maybe it's some famous tennis person, and we go, you know what, he's very very good, and he played well, but then he was so angry because he lost that game, so he went home, he smacked his wife around, beat his kids, and you go, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like him. The person doesn't he doesn't exemplify this kind of character. They exhibit sportsmanship in the game. They shake hands. They're not angry on after the game. They actually very receptive to other people actually taking the win. They know how to win, but they also know how to lose. Right? How to behave in the game. In the game. Because sometimes in some of these games, you're right. There are some not everybody's treating you nicely. Some of them are whispering in your ear, your mother is a so and so. They're trying to get you angry. They're trying to, break you down so you'll react, maybe even get sent off. But what's that person who actually exemplifies the good character, the sportsmanship? Well, these are the people who can rise above that. They're not on that emotional edge. How do they balance their lives? So that's actually sportsmanship in the game, you understand, soccer most games are going for an hour and a half, 45 minutes each side. It's 90 minutes of a heck of a lot of exertion. This is not standing still. This is running miles and actually tackling and passing and really, really disciplined stuff. How do you maintain that good character? How do you keep cool in that kind of a sport? Very hard. So you're really under the gun, so to speak. You're really being pressed. So what we're looking to do is to help a youth, probably most of our target, by the time somebody's already in the big leagues, they've almost moved out of our range. But in
Uh-huh.
the youth, where a lot of our coaches are working, they're talking about how to inculcate, how to bring in virtues, values to the children, to the youth, to help them see how the sport can help them grow. So we talk about virtues on an individual level. We say commitment and self-discipline and enthusiasm. And what we're saying is, well, commitment's a choice. It's in your mind. You're going, oh, I'm going to do it. How many times people say, well, I'm going to do it, and then they give up by, the next day. They don't follow through. So it takes self-discipline. So it's like your mind and your body. You've got to get your body to do sometimes what your mind is asking it to do, and it's not always easy. But how do you feel when your mind and your body are united? Well, you feel like you're getting your act together. How do you feel when you get your act together? You feel good. I would say you're meant to feel good. Who would design anything any other way? That when you're successful in accomplishing, you should feel good. So on a personal, well, that doesn't make it easy, but how do you actually persevere? So we're giving a kind of a roadmap of how this can work. And then we pass that on to the relationship level. Now, how do you cooperate with or get together with your teammates? We say, well, you have to have respect. It's in your mind. It's a choice. I'm going to respect this other person, maybe my teammate. But that doesn't mean anything if it just stays in your mind. You actually have to put it into practice. And we say that virtue is kind of the physical side, cooperation, actually pass the ball, talk with them, do these kind of actions. What does it build? Trust.
Hmm.
builds trust, meaning, oh, you said you were going to do that and you acted that out, and there you are. You're doing what you said you were going to do. And then we build trust. If you lose that trust, if you don't do what you say you're going to do, guess what? Break trust, very hard to regain it. Do you understand why I'm talking about this way? Because a lot of conflicts come because of broken relationships. People lose trust. They haven't been able to find a way to build trust. First of all, many of the breakdowns start on a personal level, then a relational level. And the hope is then we move to this mastery level, the other part of engine. We say the mind is creativity, the creativity that's in your mind. In our game, of soccer, it's like, oh, the moves, the opportunity, the strategy. It may be in your mind, but then you've actually got to put it into practice. You can't just think it. If you were in art and you were Michelangelo and you had some beautiful thoughts, but you never did anything with them, we wouldn't be talking about Michelangelo. We'd be going, who? It's because they actually put their ideas into practice. And so the same in sport. We say, take the initiative, try, put together. And that's actually what happens is you begin to feel a sense of accomplishment. We call that the virtue of responsibility. The initiative is the physical, put it into action. And how do you feel is responsibility? I'm doing, I'm creating, it's my work. And how does that make you feel? You feel enhanced, you feel you're growing. If you don't grow, and here's my point, maybe this, concludes my little section here to explain it. If you are a growing person, if you're somebody who's being fulfilled, going beyond just aspiration, but into a thriving in life, then actually you feel comfortable, you feel self-assured, you having you're having this 11th virtue of sportsmanship. You can carry yourself onto the field, but guess what? You take that off the field as well, into your family, into your work, into whatever aspects of life you may. You may not become the world's greatest football player, but you become the world's greatest dad, the world's greatest teacher, the world's greatest musician, whatever it is that your life's calling is. And it's when you practice that kind of virtue in your life that we could say this is when one has the opportunity to overcome conflict. I'm not saying it's easy. Somehow we all know that we'll get tested in, tomorrow. We feel good today, but tomorrow is going to bring some challenge. But if you've got something like a sense of like a roadmap of what this can achieve, then actually this can help. So it's all about growth and personal growth.
Yeah, this is a
Um,
real eye opener. I mean, of course, on one level, you're not telling me anything I never heard, but
oh, it shouldn't
uh,
be
but
new.
but your explanation of the meaning of competition, and in school, I ran cross country, which is, in a sense, it's a team sport, but it's really an individual thing, and
Sure.
uh, and you can achieve a certain mind-body unity by training on any sport, but there's a point above that which team sports lift, encourage and push and evoke from someone so much more than what you can do just on your own, based on all the different interactions you're talking about. That's I haven't thought a lot
Well,
about.
I like to say that these are model situations which you've got to be able to explain, stories. Every culture has a different story. At the moment, my work is in Senegal in West Africa.
Mhm.
That's where we're putting in a program into place. Now, how they explain virtues is going to be different to how maybe I might do that in England or in the Western civilization. I'm going to use Hans Christian Andersen, Grimm's fairy tales. They're not using Grimm's fairy tales or Hans Christian Andersen in Senegal. That doesn't mean that they don't have stories or explanations. They know these virtues.
Mhm.
Trust me, they know these virtues very well. So when we present this, if you like, it's like a roadmap of development, personal and relational and mastery development. They actually go, wow, it's like, oh my, finally I've got a map which can help explain to me how I can grow, what I can do with that. And this works beyond religion. Religion's often sometimes seen as a kind of a conflict, the clash of civilizations. The beautiful thing about football and for other sports too, but soccer is that it has a common language. How many teams want to get to the World Cup? Every team in the world, every country would like to have a team in the World Cup. They all try, but I think most, maybe not everyone, but they all try. Yeah, everybody has this language, everybody can understand. There are very few rules in this game. There's maybe only 28 rules, written rules. That's it. I mean, sometimes it's a little bit hard to interpret, but compared to other sports, American football, I can never understand because they keep changing the rules and you can do this and you can do. Wait a second, too complicated. We need something common. Football is common to the world. And it also goes beyond religion. So you get Muslims and you get Jews and you get Christians. They're all playing the same sport. May play it with a different style, that's clear, or a different finesse, one might say. But they understand the game, and that's actually the language is very good. It's a language everybody can seeks to actually they want to play, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So there's an opportunity to overcome. They're not searching just to have a conflict situation. No, they're searching to have an enjoyable situation. It's not always easy. It's challenging. But the other thing is, like I've said a couple of times, maybe just emphasize that in every religion, if I say respect or the virtue of cooperation, they're normal. These are everyday words. Sometimes I think about the Muslim faith, and I don't know it well, but they tell me there's like 90 odd names for God within the Muslim faith. And I go, I was brought up a Christian. It's like, wait a second. I don't know. We don't have that many ways of describing God. But when you start talking about God the beloved, God the beautiful, God the trustworthy, you see, you go, oh, wait a second. I think they're starting to identify the virtues of God. And that actually gives the opportunity for people to be like God, you see. So wait a minute. All we're doing is trying to enhance people, help them become virtuous people, if you like God. Maybe we're not so used to seeing it that way in the Christian or the Western world. But I think this is what gives us an opening, even in, let's say, Senegal, which is 96% Muslim.
Uh-huh.
96% Muslim. But our work flows very, very easily there. Everybody's excited. In fact, they invite us. Morocco, remember a coach there saying, oh, we need it in our country. Why? Because they have some of the same problems we may recognize, let's say in America or Europe. The breakdown of family, the upsets that are going on in society. They're happening in many other countries too.
Yeah.
And so they're looking for solutions. So that's really what we're doing. So in terms of well, even in a nice or so seemingly peaceful country, Senegal's, it doesn't have a lot of problems with, you know, the problems which are facing some of these Muslim versus Christianity. They seem relatively safe, but within the country there are problems.
Yeah.
They do have it's rivalries sometimes just end up that way. So we see our role there being, well, if we can help different sides, different populations understand these roadmaps, it actually helps people to manage their lives better.
Have,
And I
have
think
you
that's part of
have you succeeded in bringing rival groups together in a collegial way to I mean famously in Christmas truce of World War I, it was soccer
yeah.
that brought the sides together and they had a great time together. Have you been able to do that with some
We
uh
have had, in the history, I've been working in this area for, almost 20 years. I've done work in Nigeria. You mentioned it earlier in our conversation. So we actually had, there are problems in the rural areas of tribes, people, they've got sheep or they've got cattle coming into the arable. And, over centuries, probably, there's just a distrust, a hatred, and we've actually put on a soccer tournament, and actually people they're going, oh, who knew? Some of the time is they don't even know each other. They lost, we don't talk to you guys.
yeah.
So you need something to bring people together. For what? Am I just going to go over and have a cup of tea? For why? What's the purpose? You need purpose in life. And soccer or football can often give a purpose. They say, well, it's a tournament. And if you name it as the peace tournament, all the better. But it allows them to have some, a guiding, I use the word map or a blueprint to help them see why they're doing it.
Hmm.
And if people can own that, then actually it helps in their conversation, in their understanding of the other. So we've had, listen, even within countries, it doesn't have to be, every country, let's say Jordan's a funny country because, it had many Palestinians who were expelled or they left Israel,
Hmm.
right, in different sort of war periods. They went to Jordan first as refugees, but then they were given citizenship, probably one of the few, if not the only Arab country to give citizenship to the Palestinians who came. Well, guess what? There's a kind of a Jordanian team, the sort of what would you call the old, the quote unquote the real Jordanians, and then there's the team belonging to the Palestinians. Do you know
Hmm.
what I mean? So,
Yeah.
there's rivalry. Yeah, those are that's my group, and these are your group, and and so these kind of rivalries exist in my hometown in England. It's Newcastle. There's a team 20 miles down the road, bitter rivalry. Now, why? It makes no sense. There's some historical, you'll swear at them and they're worse. It's just, it's a nonsense. But somehow
It gets the fans riled up.
it, it gets them riled, gives them another purpose. We need to find other purposes for the fans to be able to hook on to. And that's actually happening. It happens in small ways. I can't say that we can claim victory there, but like I say, I like to, we're here to give a roadmap. And it's not just football. These virtues, this whole kind of growth, it can. I was just in a coffee shop this morning, and the young lady at the counter, she had nothing to do. It was 7 o'clock in the morning. So I explained these things to her. She doesn't play soccer, but she understood it because it helps her
Yeah.
life. She's a kind of a little bit of a seeker, I guess, or trying to figure out what she's going to do in life. But I don't mind, that doesn't matter. If it's useful, it has to
Yeah.
be useful. It's got to be workable.
Yeah.
So you could say I'm an idealist, but I want to see practical, useful work. Otherwise, no meaning. We're just
Hey,
dreaming, maybe,
that's right.
which is not wrong. We do need dreamers, but we need practical solutions which will help people heal those gaps, bridge those gaps. And so we're working also, like I say, in Senegal. So yeah, we have very strong connections. It takes time to build those. Like I say, it's not magic, and many times you have to just keep plugging away, showing your commitment. Even we have to, within Peace Club, we have to be committed. We have to cooperate. We have to practice these virtues ourselves in order to win trust and build together.
Hmm.
So I hope that makes sense. But that's actually, so it's a challenge. It's always a challenge.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is I'm working with Africans. Do you see what I mean? I'm working with Africans, West Africans. They speak French. I happen to speak French, but sometimes they speak with a funny accent, they're French. So, there's challenges and they do things differently. I'm very direct. I'm just talking to one of my people last night. you know, they're very, they're not direct. You see, I come from the north of England where, it's very close to Scotland. Scottish people, they just tell you straight to your face. They don't say this and mean that. No, no, no. They're direct. On the border where I am, we're very similar to that. The people down in London, we always go, "Ah, you never know, they never tell you straight. You see, they say this, they mean that, but they say this. So it's a kind of, yeah, it's interesting. It's the same in Senegal. I said, well, which one are you? Are you indirect in Senegal or are you direct? Oh, indirect. So, they say in a very fanciful way and they talk around. And so, we have to learn how to cooperate with and learn how to work together with these different types of cultures.
Yeah. Sometimes
Part of it, I think, is
they're very sensitive to
I was
not
going to
hurting people's feelings, so you want to.
exactly. Well, the beauty about Senegal, which you might love, is because they are Sufi. You
Ah,
see, they follow the Sufi. Ah, so Sufi, as you probably know, and you can expand it, this is the cultural Islam. You know, the Islam of poetry, of song, of dance, romance. Almost doesn't sound like Islam anymore.
a kind of
But it
mystical,
isn't.
mystical version of
It's
Islam
the
too.
mystical Islam.
Yeah,
It's that beautiful. And so the whole country, I mean, I'm sure there's elements of else otherwhere, but I'm going to say there's 95% of them are Sufi.
yeah. Mm.
And so it has its certain character. Hopefully, we will be successful and we will expand into the other countries beyond Senegal. I'm not there for one
Awesome.
country, I'm there for the whole continent.
There you go. Wow.
I don't know how we're doing for time, but if you have other questions, go ahead.
My question is, how can
Yes.
our audience support Peace Club? What a amazing program. How can they support you?
Well, I'm going to give you a couple of, if you like, a couple of URLs. One is Peace Club, just exactly all one word, .org. And the other one is Champions in Life. Champions, that's plural, in life. Again, all one word, .org. And the championsinlife.org is that's the name we give to this virtues program,
Uh-huh.
the curriculum. As it says, you see, can I just describe Champions in Life? Why
Please.
we call it Champions in Life? Because every young kid at 12, every boy anyway, they think I'm going to be the next Messi. I'm going to be the next Ronaldo. I'm going to be, just pass me the ball. Because that's how 12-year-old boys are. Especially if they like to play sports, whatever the sport, they've got a big imagination. The reality is that one in 10,000 may become that star, in that particular sport. But they all grow up to be fathers, husbands, professors, have a good job, in the society. We end up doing what we're doing. And we're saying we want to see people become champions in what they do, the best. A little bit, Martin Luther King, I think it was, who said, well, if you're going to be a dustbin, a trash collector, I think you'd say here, be the best trash collector you can be. That concept of be the champion trash collector. And I think that's a worthy thing. So that's actually our name is championsinlife.org to give a meaning to our wish, our desire for success for every person,
Wow.
whatever they may end up to be. Sometimes they may become the star. More often than not, they should be a star just within their own family, within their own situation. That's where the value really lies.
Wow. This has been great. I'm so inspired to hear about what you're doing, and we have to have you back. But thank you so much for
Oh,
taking some time and sharing
my
with our
pleasure.